So about that space station evacuation. Yeah, this gets interesting because I don't know if you ever listened to Coast back in the day, or if you've ever heard of Ed Dames. He's one of the most well-known remote viewers, and he used to give quite a few predictions on Coast to Coast. And one of his predictions was about what he referred to as a kill shot. And that is a solar flare or a series of solar flares from the sun that would make the Carrington event look mild in comparison. And he described some of the signs to pay attention for and look for before this event took place. And somebody said, Rex, Ed Dames predicted that the kill shot would happen after the space station was evacuated. And so I'm like, really? So I did some research and I looked into this, and it's close, but it's a little bit different. Now, what is interesting is many of the forecasts, like the signs to look for that Ed Dames gave, is happening and has happened over the past couple of years. So buckle up, buttercups. Let's go. How the heck are you? Thank you very much for joining us here at YouTube, or if you're on Rumble, thank you very much. And if you haven't got your products yet from boomerboost.com, what the heck are you waiting for? This stuff is amazing. Get the Gladiator Barley and the Boomer Boost and the collagen too. This is my go-to right here, and the collagen's awesome as well. And if you use the code REX20, you'll get 20% off. Don't just take my word for it. Read the testimonials and take the 30-day challenge. This stuff is amazing. Seriously, absolutely awesome. Cutting edge, top of the line products. That's just a quick, shameless plug. So go to boomerboost.com and you will thank me later. Okay, let's get into this. So Ed Dames. Have you heard of Ed Dames? Well, if you haven't, let me just tell you a little bit about Major Edward Dames. And then we're going to get into the kill shot prediction. And then we're going to talk about the ISS space station evacuation, which was the first ever. The ISS has been around for 25 plus years, and this is the first time they have sent astronauts home early. And they all look like they were okay in the photo shoots. I mean, I even heard a rumor that one of the astronauts got pregnant aboard the space station, and that's why they had to return. Very interesting. We're also going to look at some bizarre experiments that they do on the ISS that could have potentially, I don't know, got out and mutated. Very bizarre. But let me just tell you a little bit about Edward Dames, if you haven't heard of him already, or a quick recap. He is the world's foremost remote viewer and teacher. So is Ingo Swann. I think he actually learned from Ingo Swann, but he is the creator of technical remote viewing. Major Edward Dames, United States Army, retired, a thrice decorated military intelligence officer, original member of the U.S. Army Prototype Remote Viewing Training Program, serving as both training and operations officer for the U.S. government's top secret psychic espionage unit. Edward Dames is a ROTC distinguished military graduate of the University of California, Berkeley between 79 and 83. Major Ed Dames served as an electronic warfare officer and scientific and technical intelligence officer. In 1982, Ingo Swann, under the direction of Dr. Harold Puthoff, head of the remote viewing laboratory at Stanford Research Institute, realized a breakthrough. Swann developed a working model for how the unconscious mind communicates information to conscious awareness. And to test this model, the Army sent Major Dames and 5 others to Swann as a prototype trainee group. Well, the results exceeded in all expectations, even those of Swann. In 6 months, Major Dames' teammates were producing psychically derived data with more consistency and accuracy than had ever been seen in similar intelligence protocols and projects using the best natural psychics. In late 83, the team parted company with Swann as the new operations and training officer for the unit. Dames took the breakthrough skill dubbed coordinate remote viewing, and he began a new phase of research, testing, and evaluation in order to both uncover its true capabilities and to perfect its application to fit crucial intelligence collection needs. So that's a little bit about Major Ed Dames. Now, let's talk about the kill shot and warning signs Dames said to watch for. Over decades of interviews, Dames described precursor conditions that would appear before the kill shot. Those are increasing solar instability beyond predictable cycles. I would say we're pretty close to there right now. Next, near miss solar storms that narrowly miss Earth. I would say that's a half check. Growing satellite anomalies or unexpected failures. That's a check. Quiet government emphasis on continuity of government and planning. Check. I'll give that a half check. Infrastructure stress blamed on aging systems. Check. Low latitude auroras appearing more frequently. Check. A final period of calm just before the event. That has not happened yet because we are in extreme chaos right now, at least in the news. But you know what? If you turn off the news, depending on where you live, are you really going to be going through the same chaos as if you watch the news? I know people that watch the news all the time and they're constantly stressed out, and their doctors tell them that, oh, well, you have high blood pressure, you have this, you have that. And anyway, so it's like, I question how much watching the news affects your health, especially if you're constantly worried about it. I don't know. It's just a thought that came into my mind. But we have seen many of these precursors to a major solar event, and many of them are unfolding now, like the Aurora Borealis. We're seeing the auroras out here in the lower 48s, like below Minnesota, like all the way down in Arizona and Utah and Colorado, and even below that. That's almost unprecedented. And what about the airplanes that they've had to ground and update the software, like the air jets or the Airbuses? What do they call those? Airbuses, where they had to ground like 6,000 of these airplanes because the software glitches out when the high radiation was hitting the software, causing them to do nosedives and uncontrollable behavior. Very interesting. Now, what the killshot is claimed to be is a future catastrophic solar event, more severe than a Carrington-level solar storm, sudden, highly directional, and unpredictable, capable of disabling satellites, power grids, and modern civilization. He claimed that scenario emerged from forward-looking remote viewing sessions, not traditional physics models. The event, he claims, would happen or will happen during a technological advanced era. Warnings would come through indirect signs, not headlines, and the final event would arrive with little notice. Now, what's interesting about this is I've got another very good friend named Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, and we did a live stream yesterday on top of a mountain because we were biking, we were gravel biking, and I was talking to Diamond about some of the forecasts that I made for 2026, and he was telling me about his forecast, I guess you could call it, that he thought of 10 years ago based upon the research with the solar radiation, the solar cycles, the Earth's magnetic fields, the ice core samples, and all the data. I mean, he's a geologist, and he predicted that before this event took place, this catastrophic event that could be connected to the sun and the magnetosphere, that the militaries and governments around the world would amp up war tactics and control tactics. And that does seem to be happening right now. I mean, let's just look at Venezuela. Let's look at Ukraine and Russia, and NATO is flipping out. The US talking about potentially pulling out of NATO if they don't get Greenland. I mean, very interesting timing. Also interesting timing when we look at Greenland and how important Greenland is to this current administration. There have been previous administrations that have attempted to annex Greenland without success, obviously. So then I started thinking, okay, so the sun is definitely acting a bit more intense, it appears. The weather is very bizarre. The solar flare, it hasn't happened yet, luckily, and I really hope it doesn't, but it could. And if we have a weakened magnetosphere, a more intense solar storm, Earth facing with all the satellites, imagine what will happen to the satellites in space. China's talking about putting up an additional 200,000 satellites into space. I mean, clearly, if two of these satellites collide, you could have entire quadrants of space that you could not orbit because there would be so much debris there. And that could be like a domino effect. Our civilization is linked to the electric grid, to these GPS systems and these satellite systems. And it's becoming more integrated. So be prepared, not scared. And I was doing some research on some of the experiments that are done on the ISS, on the International Space Station, weird experiments that they do. And let's look at this for a minute. So, less discussed side of the ISS, biological and genetic experiments. The ISS is often portrayed as a platform for physics experiments and Earth observation. A significant portion of its mission involves advanced biological research, much of which receives little public attention. Now, before we get into this, though, I was just thinking, Geezer is no longer with us in physical form. He passed away several months ago, and I hope you're doing good on the other side, Geezer. I've been thinking a lot about you lately, brother. But he had offered me, I wish I would have taken him up on this. He had offered to give me a bunch of stuff that he had from Ed Dames and the remote viewing that Ed Dames did for these protocols, and I didn't take it at the time, and I wish I would have, because I think remote viewing can be very powerful if it's done the right way, and it can be verified if it's done the right way. A proper remote viewing protocol is not using just your imagination. It's actually having a target. Somebody has that target documented. They give you a piece of paper that might have numbers or letters on it. They don't give you any additional information about what the target is. And they say, okay, remote view this target. And so you remote view something based upon a paper or something that's given to you without the actual information. And then if you can remote view that, you say what you see, you write it down, you draw it. And then the person that gives you the paper, or the person that is like the, what would you call this? The program manager of that project, the project manager, the guy that gives you, or gal that gives you that piece of paper to remote view. If you remote view that, they can verify you remote view that because they've got the data. Now, when people start making stuff up and they close their eyes and they're like, okay, I'm going to remote view Mars real quick. Let me see what I find. Okay, so I'm on Mars right now. And what I see is these giant spiders, and I see these Martians with lasers, and these Martians with lasers are shooting at the spiders, but the spiders have these powerful spider webs that are made out of Martian titanium. So they're blocking the lasers and the spiders are now consuming the Martians. So Mars has been taken over by spiders, and the spiders now have laser access. You know, like, that's your imagination. But you can do verified protocols to verify what you're remote viewing if you have access to that image or that object you're remote viewing. So I just wanted to make that clear, because there's a lot of information and disinformation about remote viewing. And there's a lot of people out there that are psychic, that use their mind to see things, but that is not the same as controlled remote viewing. Like, I can be extremely psychic sometimes. For the past week, almost on a daily basis, I will think about somebody that I haven't talked to or heard from in a while. And then the next thing you know, I get a text or a phone call or an email from that person. And it's been happening every single day. And it's been like that for years with me. But that is a form of psychic connection, where your sixth sense is somehow connected to somebody else, somewhere else, and you're getting that signal. So if you're already psychic and you learn these protocols, you can be even better at remote viewing. But some of these weird experiments, let's get back to some of the weird experiments that they're doing on the ISS. Organoids, synthetic tissue. One of the most controversial areas of ISS research involves organoids, lab-grown, simplified versions of human organs derived from stem cells. Some of these organoids will grow eyeballs. And so there is some type of consciousness there, maybe not human level yet. Well, it depends on what person you're talking about. Drum roll, please. But there is consciousness there, and these organoids are miniature brains, and they're growing these in space. So I think they had these organoids playing Pong with each other. They were playing video games with each other. So we've got miniature brains growing in the space station, cardiac tissue liver tissue, intestinal structures, and in microgravity, organoids do grow differently. Cells organize in 3 dimensions more naturally. Neural tissue shows altered connectivity. Gene expression changes dramatically. NASA and partner agencies openly state that these experiments help study neurodegenerative diseases, cancer growth, human development, long-term space colonization. And critics argue, and it's a good argument, they also raise profound ethical questions. What constitutes a developing nervous system? What happens when brain-like tissue forms functional networks? Are there ethical boundaries in orbit? Are there ethical boundaries out of orbit? I mean, wild. So astronauts aboard the ISS routinely participate in studies examining how space alters human DNA expression. NASA's own research has confirmed changes in gene regulation, immune system suppression, mitochondrial stress, altered telomere behavior, and some of these changes persist long after astronauts return to Earth. The long-term implications are still unknown to some degree. And so that's another interesting theory about what happened on the space station. Did a virus evolve? Did a virus get out? Did an organoid all of a sudden obtain an IQ of 200 and take over the network? I mean, we just don't know. I mean, it's great sci-fi stuff to think about. But the kill shot theory was very interesting because Ed Dames did predict many of these precursors that we're seeing now would take place before this major solar event. And another thing that Ed Dames had predicted was the grounding of the space shuttle. So that's, I think, where some people had gotten confused when we had these astronauts return from space. Somebody said, Rex, that's what Ed Dames predicted before the solar flare, the kill shot, but it's a little bit different. It was the space shuttle. I didn't find anything directly related to the space station. If you can find information on that, I would be happy to take a look at it. It might be there. I just went through some of his previous interviews and looked at the bullet points and the analysis and the summaries of his previous interviews. But that's what I have for now. Let's see if we got anything else. Oh, yeah. Listen to this. Microbes, mutation, and unintended consequences. The ISS hosts its own evolving microbial ecosystems or ecosystem. Bacteria becoming more virulent in microgravity. Did I say that right? Increased antibiotic resistance, altered fungal growth patterns, biofilms forming in unexpected places. Microbes behave differently in space. Evolution accelerates under stress. Very interesting. And it makes me think about the evolutionary boom that happened on Earth during these times of a weakened magnetosphere and heightened solar activity. And you know what else this says after evolution accelerates under stress? And containment is never absolute. And I'm not doing the 6 symbol intentionally with my hand. It's an okay symbol. I'm animated with my hands. Okay. You know, I'm like Italian, but I'm not Italian. Okay. Rex, you're doing the 6 symbol, man. You're doing the Illuminati symbol. Show me the money, dude. I am not. All right. So this has prompted ongoing concern about the health of astronauts, contamination risks, rightfully so, and returning altered organisms to Earth. Did you see the film Life film, Ryan Reynolds? This is the one I was talking about earlier. Let me tell you a little bit about this film here. It came out in 2017. It kind of reminds me of what's going on potentially now. Let's take a look at this. Check this out. Life is a 2017 American science fiction horror film directed by Daniel Espinosa. And the development of Life began in November 2015. Okay, that's great. Let's look at the plot. In the near future, an uncrewed space probe returns from Mars to Earth's orbit with soil samples, potentially containing evidence of extraterrestrial life. The probe is collected by the International Space Station, where exobiologist Hugh Derry revives a dormant cell that quickly grows into a multi-celled organism. A group of school children vote to name the organism Calvin. An atmosphere change in Calvin's container caused it to enter hibernation. To wake it up, Hugh administers an electric shock. Calvin becomes hostile, wrapping itself around Hugh's hand and crushing it. Calvin escapes its enclosure by fabricating a tool and devours a lab rat. So this thing continues to grow in size. It basically takes over all the astronauts and the space station. And then guess what? It returns to Earth. And at the end of the film, spoiler alert, I'm going to give you 10 seconds, 5 seconds. It makes it to the Earth at the end of the film. And you know what helps it grow and adapt and become stronger? And it completely decimated everybody on that crew. Took them all out like they were nothing. Took the entire crew out like they were nothing. And it got bigger and stronger every time it connected to more water and to these people. Well, it lands in the ocean. It makes it back to Earth, and this thing makes it in the ocean, and then the movie ends. Wow. It's a great film. You should absolutely watch it. And I certainly hope that it didn't predict the future. We need to do a future podcast on mirror life. Have you heard of mirror life? You want to study something that could take over the world and destroy civilization as we know it? That would be called human life. Or I mean, not human life. That was a Freudian slip. Mirror life. Mirror life. Scientists are working on mirror life right now in laboratories, even though they say it could potentially wipe out not only humanity, but all the animals and insects and nature, because it's very similar, but it's just a little bit different. And the way that it was described to me is the RNA and the DNA is different enough to where immune systems wouldn't be able to perceive a threat. And so it could like rewrite and take over everything on the planet, basically. That's you know what? Now that I brought it up, I think I need to give you more information about it. Mirror life. Warning from scientists. Okay, so in December of 24, a group of 38 interdisciplinary scientists published a landmark report in the journal Science calling for an immediate halt to research aimed at creating mirror life, which is, it's synthetic organisms with reversed molecular structures. The researchers warned that creating mirror image bacteria poses an unprecedented and potentially catastrophic risk to global ecosystems and human health, as these organisms could be invisible to natural immune systems and predators. Wow. Mirror life. What could possibly go wrong? It's because they love you so much. They love you so much that they like to make stuff like mirror life because, you know, they think they're going to get a bonus or something. I don't know, whatever. They're like, look what I made. I made mirror life. Yeah, I can wipe out the world, but I'm going to get a bonus. I'm a scientist. I'm smarter than you. Wow. Ack, talk back. Yeah, Calvin. That's right. I knew a guy named Calvin right out of high school. Dude was super cool. Very eccentric. Very eccentric. He was like a wannabe cowboy, but he was in great shape. This dude would mow like 20 lawns a day. And he went to West Point. The dude went to West Point. He dropped out of West Point to mow lawns and wear a cowboy hat and go to raves. I wonder what he's up to. Man, it's been 30 years since I've seen that dude. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you sharing these videos. If you would do me a huge favor and hit the thumbs up, that'd be awesome. If you would do me an even bigger favor and share this video out, that would be amazing. You know, if you could just post it on social media and say, hey, check this video out. It's pretty good. Subscribe to this guy's channel. He's pretty cool. I would really appreciate that. and check us out on Patreon and check us out on Rumble. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful day. Be excellent to each other. Be prepared, not scared, and be the change you want to see. Nanu, nanu.